What's up, everybody? This is Tech G back with another video to help you successfully pass the CompTIA A+ 1202 certification exam. So let's get into it. All right, so you're studying for the CompTIA A+ 1202 exam and you hit the section on security measures. Now, at first glance, this can look like a laundry list of gadgets and concepts. We're talking about bollards, badge readers, multi-factor authentication, zero trust, and a whole bunch of other acronyms out there. But don't worry, I'm going to walk you through every single one of these. And by the time you're done watching this video, not only will you be prepared for the exam, but you'll also understand how these things actually protect companies, homes, and even your personal devices in the real world. So let's go ahead and break it down into three main buckets. First, we're going to talk about physical security, and this is keeping the bad guys away from the building or the equipment. Then we're going to talk about physical access security, and this pertains to controlling who actually gets inside of restricted areas. And then we're going to talk about logical security, and this is protecting the digital side of things. We're talking accounts, devices, and networks. So with that being said, let's go. All right, so when CompTIA says physical security, they literally mean stopping someone from physically walking up and stealing gear, damaging property, or gaining access to sensitive areas. So think of this as your first line of defense. And within that, we have what is called a bollard. So if you ever notice these short, thick posts that are in front of banks or government buildings, those are called bollards. Their job is simple. They are there to stop vehicles from ramming into a building. Now, on the exam, just remember that bollards equals vehicle barriers. Now, in real life, bollards, they do prevent smash and grab attacks where criminals might try to drive a truck through a storefront to grab all the valuables. Then we have what is called an access control vestibule. Now, this sounds fancy, but it's basically a man trap where you have two doors, one after the other. You enter the first door, you get verified, then the second door unlocks. Now, in real life, you might see this in data centers or high security offices. And basically, it stops what is called tailgating. And this is where someone sneaks in behind an employee. Next, we have what is called a badge reader. So you probably use one of these at your job where you tap your badge and the door unlocks. Well, they tie into a company's access control system, which decides who can go where. So on the exam, just remember that badge readers, they basically identify verification through employee ID badges. Then we have video surveillance. So cameras are everywhere. They're in hallways, server rooms, parking lots, you name it. Video surveillance acts as both a deterrent and a record keeper. So in real life, if a laptop goes missing from an office, then the cameras, hopefully if they're recording everything, they can help figure out what happened. You have alarm systems. So think of break-in alarms that can be triggered by doors opening, windows breaking, or motion detected after hours. On the exam, just remember that alarms, this equals detection plus deterrence. You also have motion sensors. So if you ever walked into a room and the lights pop on, well, it's the same idea. Motion sensors, they detect movement and can trigger lights or alarms. In security, they're often part of the intrusion detection systems. You have door locks, and this is the oldest security tool. From mechanical locks to electronic card readers, door locks, they restrict access. Now, as an exam tip, locks are basic but effective, especially when they are combined with other controls. You also have equipment locks. So if you've ever seen those metal cables locking laptops to the desk, those are called equipment locks, and they make it harder for someone just to grab a device and take off running. Now, on the exam, equipment locks, this equals physical theft prevention. Then there's security guards. So technology is great, but sometimes you need a human presence. And guards, they basically deter bad behavior, they check IDs, and they respond to incidents. So in real life, large companies or schools, they tend to use guards for 24/7 security. And you also have fences. Now, this is simple but effective, but fences, they define boundaries and they make it harder to sneak onto property. As it relates to the exam, just remember that fences, this equals perimeter protection. All right, so let's talk about measures that control who actually gets access to a building, room, or a device. And we're talking about physical access security. So within that, we have what are called keys, and this is the OG of access control. Keys are simple, but they're not perfect. They can be lost, copied, or stolen. We also have what is called a key fob, which is this thing right here. And basically, if you ever use a little plastic device that unlocks a car or an office door, well, that is a key fob, and they use RFID or NFC to communicate with readers. As far as the exam is concerned, just remember that key fobs, they equal electronic access tools. Then you have what is called a smart card. So think of ID badges that have a chip. You insert or tap them to gain access, and they're smarter than your basic fobs because they can store more data. As it relates to real life, government employees, they often use smart cards for both building access and computer logins. We also have what are called mobile digital keys. Now, this is a newer one. So instead of carrying a fob, your smartphone becomes the key. And apps and NFC, it makes all of this possible. So an example will be you go check into a modern hotel and they can let you unlock your room with your phone. Then there's biometrics. So here's where sci-fi meets reality. Biometrics, this uses human traits for identification. So you have retina scanners, and this scans the unique blood vessel patterns in your eye. And this is very accurate, but it is also a bit intimidating. You have fingerprint scanners, and this is the most common biometric sensor out there. And you've probably used one to unlock your phone. You also have what is called a palm print scanner, and this reads the unique lines in your palm. You have what is called facial recognition technology, where it scans your facial features, and this is used in airports, phones, and security checkpoints. You also have what is called voice recognition technology, where this authenticates you by analyzing your speech patterns. Now, on the exam, just remember that biometrics, this equals something that you are. You also have lighting. Now, this might sound boring, but it is crucial because good lighting, this reduces hiding spots and makes surveillance more effective. So in real life, parking lots with poor lighting, this could equal crime hotspots. And then you also have what is called a magnetometer. So if you've ever gone through airport security, well, those metal detectors are magnetometers, and they detect hidden metal weapons. So on the exam, just remember that magnetometer, this is a screening tool. All right, so let's go ahead and shift gears into the digital world. So logical security controls, they protect data, systems, and accounts. And the first logical security concept we have is called the principle of least privilege. Now, this is the golden rule because this gives users the minimum access needed to do their job. So as an example, in real life, an intern would not need administrative rights. Now, as far as the exam is concerned, just remember that least privilege, this prevents accidental or malicious damage. Then there's the zero trust model. And zero trust, this basically means never trust and always verify. So every access request is verified, even if the user is already inside the network. So think about this. You log into your work PC, but you still need to re-authenticate when you're accessing sensitive applications. That is the zero trust model. We also have access control lists, and ACLs are rules that say who can access what. So for example, the HR group, they can access the payroll folder, but the IT group cannot. Now, on the exam, just remember that ACLs, they equal permissions at the file, folder, or network level. You also have multi-factor authentication, and this is where you need 2 or more factors to log in. And those factors could be something that you know, like a password or a PIN, something that you have like a token or a phone, or something that you are like your biometrics. Now understand that CompTIA loves to test multi-factor authentication, so let's go ahead and break down the methods. So email, this could be a code that you sent to your inbox. A hardware token, this could be a physical device that generates a code. You got authenticator apps like Google Authenticator, a Microsoft Authenticator. You got SMS or short message services where you get a text message with a code. You got voice calls like automated systems that call you and give you a code. You got what is called TOTP, or time-based one-time passwords, where these are codes that expire quickly. You also have OTPs, or one-time passwords or passcodes, and these are single-use codes. Now, as an exam tip, just remember that multi-factor authentication, this is stronger than just using a password. And then we have what is called SAML, or Security Assertions Markup Language. Now, this one sounds intimidating, but it's basically a way for websites and applications to share login information securely. So as an example, you log into your work account and automatically get access to Salesforce without re-entering your credentials. That is Security Assertions Markup Language. And then we have what's called single sign-on. And basically, this lets you log in once and you can access multiple systems. So in real life, you might log into your Gmail account, but that'll also get you access to your YouTube account and your Google Drive account without separate logins. Now, here's the difference between SSO and SAML. So SSO, this is essentially the end goal that you're trying to achieve by just logging into one system and gaining access to all these other systems or applications with your login credentials. SAML, this is basically a protocol to achieve SSO or single sign-on. So that is the difference between the two. SSO is the goal. SAML is a way to achieve the goal. And then we have what is called just-in-time access or privileged access management. So instead of giving someone permanent administrative rights, you grant them temporary elevated access when needed. And this reduces risk. So if their account gets hacked, then attackers do not get full privileges. We also have what is called mobile device management. So companies, they love MDM tools because they can control work phones and tablets, or they can enforce encryption, push updates, and even wipe lost devices. Now, on the exam, just remember that MDM, this equals managing and securing mobile devices. We also have what is called DLP or data loss prevention. So think of DLP as a watchdog for sensitive data. It stops employees from emailing customer data or uploading trade secrets to Dropbox. Now, in real life, DLP, this can block or warn when sensitive data is leaving the company. We also have what is called identity access management. And this is an umbrella system that handles who you are, what you can access, and how you prove it. On the exam, identity access management, this equals user identity plus permissions. And then we have what are called directory services. So directory services like Microsoft Active Directory, these are central databases that store all the user accounts and permissions. So you could think of it as a phone book for your company's IT success. All right, so now that we covered all the terms, let's go ahead and connect the dots. So remember that physical security, this protects the building and equipment. Physical access security, this makes sure that only the right people get inside. And logical security, this locks down the digital world. Now, in real world IT, you'll see these layers working together. A data center might have bollards outside, a man trap at the entrance, badge readers on every door, and biometric scanners for the server room. Once you get inside, then you're going to discover that accounts are being protected by multi-factor authentication, identity access management, and data loss prevention policies. All right, so let me go ahead and wrap all this up. So security measures might feel overwhelming at first, but once you see how they all connect, it begins to click. And the goal is simple: to keep people and data safe. Now, understand that the exam is going to test your ability to recognize which measures apply to which situation. And here's the cool part. Everything that you're learning isn't just for the test. These are the same tools and concepts IT pros use every single day. So whether you're locking down a small office Wi-Fi network or managing access to a massive enterprise system, you're going to see these measures in action. So the next time you walk into a building and swipe a badge, or when your phone asks for a fingerprint scan, then think of it as the real world CompTIA A+ in action. All right, so with all of that being said, let's do some check on learning. So our first question is, which of the following best describes the purpose of bollards? Is it to prevent unauthorized badge access? Is it to stop vehicles from entering restricted areas? Is it to detect motion inside of a building? Or is it to provide lighting for surveillance cameras? And the correct answer is, it is to stop vehicles from entering restricted areas. So bollards, these are physical barriers, often short, sturdy posts that are designed to block vehicle access. They do not control people directly. Instead, they prevent vehicle-based attacks or crashes into buildings. Next question. A company wants to reduce the risk of employees accidentally sending files like customer credit card data through email or uploading them to unauthorized cloud storage. Which security control would best address this concern? Would this be multi-factor authentication, directory services, magnetometers, or data loss prevention? And the correct answer is, this will be data loss prevention. So DLP systems, they monitor and control the movement of sensitive data to prevent leaks or misuse. Multi-factor authentication, this helps secure logins. Directory services, they organize identities. And magnetometers, they detect metal objects, not data leaks. And the final question is, which of the following is an example of logical security rather than physical security? Would this be a badge reader, a a security guard, the zero trust model, or an equipment lock? And the correct answer is this will be the zero trust model. So logical security controls like zero trust, access control lists, multi-factor authentication, and identity and access management, they protect data, accounts, and networks. Physical security tools, they protect buildings and devices. And when it comes to zero trust, this specifically ensures that no user or system is automatically trusted, even if they're inside the network.